They mocked him before they even knew his name. To the Galactic Coalition, humanity was a footnote in the annals of interstellar conquest, a primitive species clinging to outdated warfare and obsolete values. The war, if it could be called that, was more of a cleanup operation. One by one, the outer colonies had fallen. Earth itself had gone dark. The few human resistance cells scattered across burned planets were dismissed as embers refusing to die. Their weapons were chemical. Their tactics were chaotic. Their pride? Pathetic. On the outer rim of Sector 17K, laughter echoed through the humid air of a forward operating base. Zarnathi infantrymen, 8-limbed, plated, and overly proud, passed around a screen replaying footage from a recent training simulation. In it, a human sniper attempted to line up a shot. The camera zoomed on his optics, analog, magnify glass, as a thermal overlay showed how exposed he truly was. A beam from an alien drone seared across the screen. The human crumpled. A burst of harsh, insectoid laughter filled the tent. They aimed through tubes, his commander Varnox, wrapping his armored fingers around a nutrient flask. Metal tubes, as if the wind obeys their will. They think themselves hunters, replied one of his lieutenants, the ridges of his face rippling in amusement. But they're prey, blind prey. Sniper warfare, in their doctrine, was an extinct practice. Too slow, too unreliable. The Coalition preferred orbital strikes, drone scouts, and swarm tactics. Their neural sync targeting systems connected entire platoons. Speed and saturation, that was the alien way. But something had begun disrupting their certainty. It started with whispers. Patrols lost contact near the ruins of Gala 3. Not unusual. Radiation storms often scrambled signals. Then came the silence of an entire outpost on the dunes of Miraxis. No explosion, no transmission, just stillness. What finally drew attention was the discovery of one particular body. Italic war chief, armor intact, helmet breached. A perfect hole through the visor. No energy signature. No plasma residue. Just lead. The Coalition dismissed it as an anomaly, maybe even sabotage, until it happened again. And again. Within a month, 17 Coalition officers were dead. No signs of struggle, no breach perimeters, just corpses lying in open fields or watchtowers, each killed by a single supersonic projectile. No trails. No witnesses. No drones caught any movement. There was an uncomfortable realization spreading among the higher ranks. Someone was out there. Someone with terrifying precision. Inside the orbiting Coalition Dreadnought Ascendancy Prime, strategist Ikril paced a command bridge. She had seen wars collapse because of shadows like this. It didn't matter if the death toll was low. What mattered was fear. Fear spread like infection, faster than light. "This is psychological warfare," she muttered, voice clicking through her translator. "One man or one weapon. Sowing panic. Have we identified the source?" "Negative," replied the surveillance officer. "No heat signatures. No comms intercepts. No electronic footprint. Whoever it is, they operate like a ghost." That word, ghost, began circulating on encrypted channels. Field units began refusing assignments near the dead zone in Sector 17K. Even hardened mercenary units requested redeployment. When pressed, they cited the same fear, the sensation of being watched, of feeling exposed even in cover. It wasn't that the kills were high in number. It was that they were surgical, purposeful, almost personal. Varnox didn't believe in ghosts. He requested to personally lead a team into the zone, confident in his own elite training. His squad was equipped with anti-sniper drones, atmospheric sensors, and full-spectrum surveillance gear. They didn't make it back. The drones never launched. The sensors detected nothing. And Varnox's last recorded words, sent moments before the connection died, were strangely calm. "I see the glint." No context. No explanation. Just that and silence. When the Coalition retrieved what was left of the squad, they found the bodies carefully arranged in a circle. Each one had been hit once. Cleanly. From different angles. Varnox's helmet had been removed. Set gently beside him, a shell casing rested in his open hand, engraved with alien glyphs that read, "Next." That was the first message. From orbit, the coalition doubled surveillance across the planet. Every anomaly, every motion, every heat bloom was tracked. Yet the sniper, the ghost, left no trace. He moved with the patience of stone. He struck with the finality of thunder, and he vanished like smoke. The troops began giving him names. Wraith of Windspire, the One-Eyed God, Ghost of the Wastes. No one knew his face. No one had seen the rifle. Some claimed he was an AI from Earth's fallen cities. Others whispered he was the last human sniper, awakened from cryosleep when the war reached its bitter end. The theories varied, but the results did not. Death came at a distance, swift, silent, surgical. Inside a bunker near the forward line, a young alien soldier trembled as he cleaned his weapon. His superior barked at him, but he didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the shattered window, facing the hills. "What are you staring at?" snapped the officer. I thought I saw a shimmer," the soldier whispered. "There's nothing out there. Get back to—" A sudden metallic clink echoed in the room. Both froze. Lying on the floor between them was a single shell casing. No sound of entry. No open door. Just the casing, still warm. The sniper had begun playing with them. Far away, on a wind-blown ridge overlooking the valley, Cale Maddox adjusted the scope of his rifle. His breath was slow, steady, shaped by decades of discipline. He didn't need drones or satellites. Just line of sight, wind calculations, and patience measured in hours. He didn't hate them. Not really. But he remembered the cities they burned. The screams under alien fire. He remembered Earth. As the next patrol moved into the kill zone, Cale slid around into the chamber. The soft click was drowned by the wind. They never heard the shot. Rain whispered against rusted steel as Cale Maddox lay prone atop a collapsed spire, his breath slow, even unhurried. The city ruins stretched before him like a carcass. Broken walls, splintered towers, all drowned beneath ash-gray skies. The only movement came from the patrol creeping through the valley below, unaware they were already within his reach. He watched them through the scope. Alien forms armored in polished synth metal, their legs jointed backwards, their heads cocking nervously at each gust of wind. 7 targets. He could take 3 before they'd react, maybe 4 the officer didn't duck. But Cale wasn't here for numbers. He was here for silence, for precision. His finger rested against the trigger. Not yet. To the Coalition, he was a phantom. To Earth Command, he was a classified asset pulled from cold storage when desperation outweighed morality. Cale hadn't expected to wake again. Not after the Concord collapse. Not after the surrender. He'd gone into cryo to be forgotten, a relic buried under ice and data, his name erased, his legacy sealed beneath clearance codes and redacted reports. But Earth had cracked open a vault when the aliens reached Soul's Edge. He hadn't spoken a word since thawing. The others from his unit were long dead, the last generation of pure analog warfare. They had trained without drones, hunted without AI, memorized terrain by feel and shadow. Where modern soldiers relied on satellites, Cale trusted wind, temperature, timing. He used a bolt-action rifle, handmade and heavily modified, its parts polished like bone, its barrel tuned for the planet's thinner atmosphere. There was no digital readout, no guidance system, just iron breath and instinct. He lined up the shot. 2 seconds of stillness passed. Exhale. Fire. The officer's head snapped back, a dark mist blooming from the exit wound. Before the body hit the ground, Cale had already chambered the next round, shifted 2 degrees, and fired again. Another alien collapsed, a shot through the throat that severed both communication and command. The remaining patrols scrambled for cover, unsure of where death had come from. They fired blindly into the mist, energy bolts scorching stone, but their panic betrayed them. One ran toward the ridge. Cale waited, letting the moment stretch. The target hesitated behind a wall. Cale adjusted, fired, and silence returned. He didn't move. Not yet. Movement drew eyes. Sound invited sensors. Patience was a predator's virtue, and Cale had learned long ago that a sniper wasn't just a killer. He was a ghost shaping the battlefield. Every shot shifted the enemy's path. Every corpse whispered, You are not safe. An hour passed before he slid backward down the slope, disappearing into shadows and rubble. His presence left no trace. No heat, no radio frequency. Just death, clinical and unexplainable. Back in the ruins of an old transport hub, Cale dismantled his rifle piece by piece, cleaning each with methodical care. His hands moved without thought, muscle memory forged over decades. A faded photograph was tucked in the inner lining of his pack. A woman and a boy, smiling against the backdrop of Earth's last spring. He didn't look at it. Not today. The Coalition was adapting. They had begun deploying sensor arrays across the sector. Orbital thermal scans swept the valleys. Static drones buzzed through ravines, programmed to detect movement under camouflage. Cale had already destroyed 6. But the 7th was smarter. It hovered out of reach, scanning in wide pulses, learning from his predecessors. He couldn't afford to miss. He took position 2 kilometers from the forward Coalition outpost, using an abandoned rail tunnel as cover. From here, he could see the command antenna, a spindly tower laced with blinking lights and shielding plates. Guarded, reinforced, but vulnerable if he aimed high enough. He lay motionless for 13 hours, unmoving as the wind shifted and night fell. At 3:12 Standard Planetary Time, the drone passed overhead. Cale fired once. The round punched through its guidance ring and detonated the power core midair. The drone exploded like a sun flare, showering the compound in sparks. Confusion spread across the comms. Coalition voices panicked, searching for threats that didn't appear on sensors. They never found the shooter. He had already moved. The next morning, alien corpses were discovered inside a fortified control center, each struck in a non-lethal point, immobilized but alive long enough to see the sniper's calling card etched onto a wall in human script. 1 scope. 1 ghost. Strategist Ikril studied the footage with silent frustration. She had underestimated this enemy. This wasn't a glitch in the war. It was a tear spreading across their psychological fabric. Every patrol now second-guessed shadows. Soldiers wore extra shielding to no avail. Even the war chiefs refused to stand near windows or on balconies. "It's not the body count," her advisor murmured. "It's the doubt." Ikril's expression tightened. Doubt kills discipline. Fear corrodes unity. This human must be erased. They issued a direct bounty on the sniper. 50,000 credits, dead or alive. 10 elite trackers were dispatched into the sector, outfitted with optical decoys and stealth suits designed to confuse primitive eyes. They moved like phantoms, their armor tuned to mimic the environment. Cale had watched them enter from a northern ridge through the lens of a scavenged Coalition scope. He marked their positions with soft pencil scratches on his map, studying the way they walked, how they grouped, which one lagged behind. He didn't take the shot. Not yet. He wanted them to feel hunted. One by one, they would. As dusk bled into the city, Cale cleaned his barrel once more, staring into the void where Earth had once hung in the sky. He didn't know if anyone was left alive back home, but he knew what fear looked like. He saw it now in alien eyes, the same wide, twitching stares he remembered from civilians fleeing during the first orbital strikes. Back then, he had been helpless. But now he was the warhead, and he had only just begun. Cale Maddox adjusted the sling of his rifle as he stepped over the twisted skeleton of what had once been a Coalition dropship. Its hull was blackened, its wings folded like broken limbs. Ash and bone crunched beneath his boots. The ruins smelled of scorched metal and burned ozone, but beyond that, there was something more profound in the air: absence. No drone hum, no foot patrols, no distant artillery, just wind. They were retreating. Not because of losses, not because of Earth's technology, but because of him. A single human sniper had changed the calculus of war. Word of his precision had seeped into the Coalition's military network like a virus, unspoken in command briefings but etched into every soldier's breath. They called him Ghost now, not as mockery but in fear. Patrol formations had shifted. Standard tactics had crumbled. Officers stayed off balconies. Windows were welded shut. The war machine slowed, not from damage, but from paranoia. Cale didn't smile at the irony. He had never been one for symbolism. He moved with the wind and left only corpses and confusion behind. Other human cells began to notice the change. At a resistance outpost buried in the canyon ravines of Isra, for Commander Rourke leaned over a cracked holomap, studying enemy movement reports. He noticed something peculiar. Supply convoys rerouted, air cover withdrawn from key zones, and entire sectors abandoned overnight. The only common factor: each area had been within Kale's operational radius. "He's shifting the front," Rourke muttered. His lieutenant raised an eyebrow. "One man." Rourke nodded. "One ghost." They hadn't seen him in person, but they saw the ripples. Every time he struck, human units pushed forward. Every time he moved, alien morale crumbled. The Coalition's neural-sync troops, once machines of efficiency, now questioned every shadow. Ambushes failed. Officers hesitated. Discipline fractured. Kale never operated alongside the resistance. He didn't need to. His presence was enough to anchor 100 human advances without firing a single bullet. He kept moving. In the crumbled cathedrals of Virulon, he spent 4 days motionless beneath shattered stained glass. From there, he ended a general's career with a single shot that shattered a man's chest plate. In the fog-choked marshes of Tarsus, he lured a recon team with a trail of spent casings, only to erase them before they ever spotted the glint of his lens. But it wasn't just death he dealt. Kale had learned that fear could travel farther than a bullet. He began leaving marks, subtle signs that he had been there. A snapped twig pointed toward a sniper's nest. A bloodied shell casing set beside an untouched meal. The Coalition's most seasoned troops found themselves sleepless, checking corners in their dreams. One alien squad self-terminated after believing they were surrounded, even though Kale hadn't even been in the region that week. The war was being fought in their minds now. Inside the War Council chamber aboard Ascendancy Prime, strategist Icru slammed a fist against a hollow display. The projection of Sector 17K glitched and flickered beneath her glare. "He's turning our army into prey," she hissed. The advisors remained silent. She gestured sharply. "Deploy the Erasure Unit. Signal Protocol Nemesis. I want every inch of that sector burned, leveled, and choked with drones. I don't care if we scorch the planet. Find him." And so they came. 12 hunter teams, cloaked in adaptive camouflage, outfitted with quantum sensors, their minds linked into a collective consciousness. They swept through the valleys like wolves, armed with weapons that could track heartbeat shifts from a kilometer away. Kale didn't run. He waited. The first team vanished without sending a signal. Days later, the second went silent. The third left behind a single corpse, eyes wide, helmet removed, a bullet clean through the neck. On a wall near the body, scrawled in a strange blend of English and alien glyphs, was a single phrase: "I don't hunt. I wait." The Coalition stopped broadcasting updates on the Erasure Unit's progress. Kale began targeting infrastructure next. Fuel lines, relay nodes, power cells, each hit without warning. Each strike conducted with mechanical grace. The alien command couldn't predict his movements because there was no pattern. He didn't follow logic. He followed pressure points. He knew the nerves of war and how to pinch them until the whole beast collapsed. They tried to adapt. They failed. One alien commander attempted to emulate human sniping tactics, stationing marksmen in towers, adjusting for wind manually. Kale killed him in order of rank, starting with the highest. The last shot wasn't fatal, just a message. The wounded alien was found curled against a wall, muttering about an eye in the storm. Human command began to whisper the impossible. What if this war could be turned? Not with fleets, not with legions, but with fear. In a rare intercepted transmission, Kale's name was finally spoken aloud by alien tongues. "We must neutralize the sniper," said Icru. The reply came not from her advisors, but from a council elder whose voice crackled with age. "You don't neutralize the wind. You endure it, or you move." The council moved. Entire sectors were abandoned overnight. Cities fell not from siege, but from surrender. When Kale reached the outskirts of Coalition Base Theta 9, he found it empty, deserted. Buildings still warm, meals half-eaten, lights blinking across abandoned corridors. He walked through it in silence. There was no glory in this, no triumph. He was not a hero. He was a consequence. Before leaving, he placed a single bullet on the command desk. No engraving, no note, just wait. By now, the myth had outgrown him. They said he could shoot through walls, that he could hear your heartbeat from miles away, that he didn't need a rifle anymore, that the rifle was afraid of him. Kale sat on a ridge that night, looking toward the horizon where alien ships lifted off and vanished into the clouds, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind. He exhaled. The wind carried it. The Coalition's last high commander arrived under the cover of dusk, descending through a blood-red sky aboard a gilded command cruiser that shimmered like a blade against the clouds. High Strategos Velnerkrin, the architect of 17 planetary conquests, had never known fear, not on the burning moons of Krythis, not beneath the acid storms of Virulon Prime, but now, as his boots touched the fractured concrete of a retreating warfront. Even he could feel it, something gnawing the edge of control. The soldiers who met his gaze were not proud. They were pale, twitching, hollow-eyed, not from wounds, from waiting. His orders were swift and simple. No more evasions, no more silence. They would rally. They would strike. They would cleanse Sector 17K of this human phantom who had made the Coalition bleed from within. He planned a broadcast, a spectacle, a live address at the edge of no man's land, flanked by elite guards, orbital drones, and the best anti-sniper shielding in the galaxy. It would be an act of defiance against the fear that had hollowed his ranks. A final show of dominance. Kale Maddox had already heard the plan. The intercepted transmission crackled through his worn headset as he crouched atop a moss-choked satellite tower 5 kilometers outside the landing zone. His eyes, behind a matte black scope, didn't blink, didn't shift. He'd scouted the terrain 3 days prior, mapping fallback routes, elevation lines, and wind tunnels like an artist etching paint into canvas. The Coalition believed their jammers and shielding would keep him away. They didn't understand who they were dealing with. He wasn't trying to break through defenses. He was aiming through certainty. When the dropships touched down, Kale was already in position, camouflaged beneath layers of carbon mesh and broken foliage. His rifle, now burnished dull by time and ash, rested on its bipod. A single round sat in the chamber, one crafted by his own hands, inscribed with a word in a language no alien would understand. Oath. Through the scope, Kale watched the stage unfold. A platform of obsidian steel, raised high above the ruined plaza. Spotlights pierced the dark like search beams. Strategos Kryn emerged with military poise, his voice amplified across the valley by arc-boosted speakers. His words thundered in alien syllables, sharp and clipped. He spoke of resistance as a cancer, of fear as a weakness, of humans as relics destined to fade. Kale adjusted his aim. Wind, 13 knots, west by southwest. Humidity, high. Distance, 3,112 meters. The shot would have to compensate for the energy field's slight distortion at the outer shell of the perimeter. He had calculated the arc in his notebook the night before, drawing parabolas in the dirt with stick like some ancient mathematician from a world long conquered. Velner raised his fist. The troops below raised theirs in return, some hesitantly, some without conviction. Kale exhaled. The rifle kicked back just enough to nudge his shoulder. For a heartbeat, nothing changed. Then Strategos Kryn's head jerked sideways, as if pulled by invisible wire. A hole bloomed above his eye ridge, clean and sudden. His body staggered, collapsed. Gasps replaced cheers. Screams replaced commands. A siren howled uselessly in the distance. The crowd panicked. Drone teams spun in circles, scanning with infrared. Guards fired into shadows. Commanders shouted over each other. None of it mattered. Kale was already gone. He moved through the ruins like fog, silent, untraceable, unmoved by the chaos he had ignited. His rifle was slung behind him. It wouldn't be fired again today. Maybe not ever. He didn't run. Running was for the hunted. Across the sector, the effect was instantaneous. Coalition command collapsed into infighting. Sub-commanders argued over succession. Outposts were abandoned en masse. Ships lifted without authorization. Messages streamed back to the homeworlds, full of fragmented reports, panic theories, and pleas for reinforcements that would never come. By morning, 5 major cities had been left to the resistance without a single shot fired. Aboard Ascendancy Prime, strategist Icro stared at the footage on loop, her claws dug into the control panel, etching lines into the alloy. "How?" she hissed. "We had scanners, jammers, thermal sweeps. How'd he get through?" Her second-in-command didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The myth had become too large. The ghost had grown teeth. Resistance fighters found the broadcast platform empty. Only a single brass casing remained, glinting softly in the dirt where the High Commander had fallen. It bore no message, no signature. Just wait. In the days that followed, Kale became something more than legend. Recruits wore replicas of his scope lens as pendants. Kids in liberated colonies played sniper in alleys, whispering his name like a ward against fear. Across alien worlds, his kill shot was studied by war academies and buried by censors alike. No one ever found his body. No drone tracked his final movement. Some claimed he returned to Earth and vanished into the old forests. Others believed he froze himself again, waiting for the next war. A few whispered that he never existed at all. There was Earth's grief made manifest, vengeance sharpened into a single bullet. But deep in a desert Templeton museum, beneath a glass case on Mars, Kale Maddox's rifle stands upright. The barrel is clean, the scope still aligned. Beneath it, a plaque reads, "One bullet changed the war." Imagine the ones he didn't fire. And carved into the back wall, unnoticed by most visitors, a different line waits in human script. No Empire fears soldiers, only ghosts.